Joined us. We appreciate you coming. We'd like to begin with invocation of prayer, and tonight we have Reverend Vanderkline.
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for your presence in this place, and we ask this evening that you would be with us as a township board as we deliberate on the issues that are before us. Pray that you would give us guidance and direction, and that the decisions that we make will be in keeping with your will and be an honor to you and for the betterment of the township and the residents whom we serve. We thank you for that privilege. We ask now your blessing upon our time. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right, please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I kind of throw you off there, Rich, when you turn around, the flag's right there. Those little things, you know.
Yeah, but I didn't feel
I was waiting for it to be over there.
I got to keep you guessing a little bit.
I appreciate that.
All right. Well, since we're talking to you right now, can you take the roll for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, let the record show that all members of the Township Board are present.
Excellent. Okay. So item number 5 on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the agenda is approved. Item 6, and there's quite a few of those tonight, are your communications, letters, and reports received for information. We'll move on then to item 7, and I'll look out to you here in the public. So item 7 is our initial public comment period. Most of you have been here before, but if you've not been here, I'm sorry.
Public hearing.
Oh, okay. You're right. My apologies. Yep, you're right. Okay. We're going to go to the public hearing then, having to do with the revised preliminary plan for Waterford Place and Sunset Retirement Communities. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I will. Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. The public hearing on the revised preliminary plan for Waterford Place is now open. If anyone is here tonight to speak as part of that public hearing, you're welcome to come forward at this time and address the board. Identify your name and address, and allowed to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Anyone here to speak to that? I know if my parents could have gotten out tonight, they would have. And they invite anybody who's thinking about that place to come out and they'll give you a tour of their place. All right, well then, seeing no one, we're going to have a motion hopefully to close that public hearing.
I'll move that we close it. Support.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just like that, the public hearing is closed. Now we need to have a motion to approve the resolution that's been recommended by the Planning Commission, of which we've been provided the resolution and the various staff reports and the application and the like.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion about this. It's a pretty major growth out there, quite an addition to Waterford. Anyone?
Their next phase of planning.
Yeah. Does anyone have concerns, and I guess I'm closer to it because my parents are there, but they've got one exit onto 18th. They're adding all these other units, and I'm not sure, I don't think there's another exit that I saw. Am I wrong?
Of course, Sheldon.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, there is. Okay.
I was going to say.
Escape my notes. Well, good. Because if there's something you hear over coffee there, it's, in fact, I think we probably heard it here. We put a light right there. I doubt that's going to happen so close to Fort Sheldon and so close to Chicago Drive. But, well, that's good. That's good then. That's a lot of people.
I was going to say, one of the features of this proposal is that they're also going to be building cottages and 2-unit cottages, which is something that they haven't had before. And so that's going to be a very nice feature.
Down near the lake there, I think on that far end of the lake is where they're...
Well, to that side, yes.
I think the existing towers, they would just replicate kind of going to the south there, toward Fort Sheldon. And,
right.
Kind of look.
I don't recall exactly where those cottages are going to be. Northeast?
Yeah. By the lake, right? Yeah.
So that'll be a very nice feature.
My guess is, those are probably decently profitable, and that's part of the plan. That'll not all the same type of unit, but it will greatly expand their footprint. The number of residents there, but still the units is like 5.8 or something, much less than what our mandatory is. So, any comments? Anybody? All right. Hearing none, it's a roll call vote. So, Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Mr. Wieringa?
Yes.
Mrs. Skolma?
Yes.
Mr. Manier?
Yes.
Mr. Bosch?
Yes.
It's carried.
Okay, now we come to the first public comment period of the evening. So as I was saying a moment ago, as members of the public, you're welcome to come forward and address the board at this time on items that are included in our agenda for tonight. There'll be a later public comment period where you can either comment on items we've talked about during the meeting or anything else that you have on your mind concerning the township. I would encourage you in saying that too, that the Friday before these meetings, our agendas with links to important documents are posted on the township website. And in case you ever come in feeling like you're not prepared to know exactly what we're going to cover and therefore not sure whether to speak right now, I would ask you to avail yourself of that opportunity. So, having said that, is there anyone here tonight who would wish to step forward and address any of the items remaining on our agenda tonight? I see someone maybe ready yourself. Yes? No? No? Yes. Please just state your name.
James Dyckman with Grand Rapids 1405 Taylor Street.
Yep. Welcome back, James.
Board of Trustees, I'd like to take my 3 minutes to address the draft resolution that was published with the agenda for the approval of mineral mining license 1902. However, instead of going number by number and agreeing or refuting the points, I'd rather focus on the two big concepts that we have in front of us. First, the shift in conditions in 2015. Secondly, the finishing of the operation in as little time as possible with the best outcome for all parties involved. In 2015, Grand Rapids Gravel applied for a renewal of the permit they were issued in 2010, which allowed for the importation of materials to the Jensen pit. When applying for the renewal, Grand Rapids Gravel was never made aware that the conditions were to change. Nor was there any discussions of the change in conditions of the 2015 Mineral Mining Board meeting. Grand Rapids Gravel representatives were in attendance at that meeting and certainly would have contested any such change. We're aware that this challenge is untimely, however, it needs to be pointed out that it is crucial to the point of how we arrived here today. It is clear that the township wants the mining operation to be completed as soon as possible. It is clear that the Ottawa County Parks Department would like to purchase the land from Grand Rapids Gravel as soon as they are able to secure the funds, roughly 2 years. The Grand Rapids Gravel would like to run the most efficient operation possible and leave no valuable natural resources untouched. Grand Rapids Gravel is offering a solution to this desire in the form of a restricted covenant agreement. They'll put an absolute end date to the mining operation. This is the exact date that the mining board has already approved for ML 1902 license to be valid through. The only request by Grand Rapids Gravel is to be allowed to continue to import material from off-site, the process which has been the status quo for the decades previously. Without this capability, Grand Rapids Gravel does not believe the operation will cease by the end date proposed in the timeline, nor will the township be able to enforce Grand Rapids Gravel to end the extraction of natural resources due to their favored position under the law. Grand Rapids Gravel will need to pull resources from the Jensen pit location and move those resources to the Boulder Creek location in Plainfield Township in order to extract all the gravel in the time frame remaining at the Boulder Creek location. Grand Rapids Gravel is not and has never stated that the timeline in Plainfield Township is Georgetown Township fault. However, by not allowing the product to be imported from Plainfield Township, Georgetown Township is delaying the end date of the operation in their own township. Point 14 of the draft resolution states Grand Rapids Gravel would be able to request an extension to this permit. And due to the natural resources favored position in their law, we believe that extension would be granted. So instead, let's make a deal. Finalize operations and give you a drop-dead date with no availability of an extension so that the parcels in this matter can be reached, the end-use plan, and create a win-win-win for all parties involved. Thanks.
James, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time on agenda items? All right, seeing none, we'll close that public hearing and move to item number 9 on our agenda. That is the consent agenda, which is long tonight, admittedly, I think because of the frequency of meetings thus far this year. So as you saw those items there, is there a motion to support the consent agenda?
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Moved and supported. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it on our regular agenda tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 9.10, 9X.
On here. Did you say .10?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 9.10.
All right, that item.
Yes, yep, that's correct.
You were saying 9.
Yep,
9X. Yeah.
yes.
Lakewood.
Yep.
All right. And where do y'all think that would fit best? Just gonna put it after 13, make it 13A. How do we do that? We'll make that item 13A, then 9X. We'll move and make agenda item 13A. Any other items any board member wishes to remove from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the motion with that one item removed, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that's passed. Item number 10 then, purchase of a fire department 2020 pickup. Is there a motion to approve of that purchase?
So moved.
Support. And moved and supported. Questions, comments among the board? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that item is passed. Item number 11, our mowing and fertilizing bid packages. Again, we're looking for a motion now to approve, as recommended by the Services Committee, various low bids.
I will move that. We approve.
All right. Anyone on the board wish to address it, or anyone from the Services Committee, anything that you feel you should enlighten us about? All right. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The item is carried. Item 12, WM Family Fund LLC, that's Rebounders down here, is looking for a liquor license. And they're looking to have this board approve that resolution for that liquor license. Is there anyone who wishes to place that before the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the liquor license for WM Family Fun LLC, as recommended by the Finance Committee. Support.
And moved and supported. Discussion. I know this came up in Finance Committee, but some of you are not part of that. Maybe you have questions or comments? No?
I like this.
Sure.
Inside the facility, what is their layout that they plan on utilizing?
And they presented us with a layout that we looked at the Finance Committee. It didn't have, as I recall, specific. Okay, I'll pull that up here.
There is a section in the layout of the building that has a kitchen section, which you see
Toward the back.
toward the back at the top of the upper left-hand corner. There's a kitchen area there, and I don't know if that's where they're going to be facilitating this, but they do have that.
That would be all liquor control commission issue. It wouldn't be a township issue.
Right. Well, that's a good point, which we talked about at our committee meeting too. It's liquor control that really regulates that.
And LCC will be very specific with them. I think the impetus behind it was we're doing okay, but it's tough, you know. Sure. And as we all know, that was an empty building for a period of time. They're a fun family place. We'd love to see them succeed, and I think it's becoming more a fact of life. There's a certain segment and say, look, if I'm going to go there, I want to have an adult beverage, whether that's something we would do or not. As I joked about at Finance Committee, what could be better, drinking or jumping on trampolines?
Drinking and watching your children jump on trampolines sounds better to me.
Have a good liability policy, a really good one. But I think there's consensus among us. Yeah, I mean, if obviously LCC will make sure it's controlled and all that, we'd like to give them the opportunity to succeed there. So, any more comments on this particular motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I think it's a roll call.
Yep, it
It's a
is.
roll call. Mr. Bosch?
Yes.
Mr. Manier?
Yes.
Mrs. Skolma?
Yes.
Mr. Wieringa?
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Schwam? Yes. Carried.
Thank you. Item 13, purchase of a DPW 2020 pickup to replace the existing 2013 Ford F-150. Is there a motion to make that approval?
I will move that we purchase that.
And support.
Moved and supported. Questions, comments?
Now this was in finance. Was there a trade-in? Was this going to be, or not traded in, but at the auction?
Okay. The 2013, there's a little note there below it. That'll be sold at auction when the new one comes.
We've historically done a lot better at auction than on trade-in, right?
Wait, well, it's relatively new, but yes, to answer your question, yes, we've been doing better.
And I missed it at the finance meeting. There was an example of, what was it, the boom truck that got sold? Or a previous truck went to auction and got sold? And how much did that sell for?
We were offered $3,500 for trade-in on the service truck. Sold the auction price was
$14,000. So that's something I've been pushing for before I was even on the board, was instead of trading this in for pennies on the dollar, which was literally like a 20 to 30% of what fair market value was, we were trading it in for nothing.
Yeah, this is good.
Put it on auction, so all that taxpayer money would then leave it on the table. I'm glad to see we're actually headed in the right direction on this.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Beautiful.
I'm glad we're doing that. Okay. So it's been moved and supported, right?
Yes.
Anyone else any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then 13 is approved. Now 13A, that was 9X earlier. That was Lakewood. Let's turn back there. Approval to sign the Lakewood Construction 179D study and allocation letter is recommended by the Finance Committee. And I think, Michael, you're the one to pull that out. Go ahead. Address the board on that.
Well, I was at the Finance Committee meeting when it came up, but just wanted to know more details about it. I know the reasoning was there's a certain tax benefit to them doing this, but I guess my question was the total amount being over $12 million. So we got to that. I believe $12,023,000.
11,880,000 or something.
Yeah, go ahead and pull it up.
Mr. Chairman, before we discuss this, I think we need a motion on the floor to either approve or not approve.
Making a motion, Michael? Just want to place the motion for the board and we have further discussion?
I'll make the motion to approve item 9.10 from the consent agenda.
Support.
Support.
All right, so now it's before the board. Continue, you were asking a question.
Yeah, it was listed as $12,023,000.
That was corrected.
That was corrected, yeah. 11,880.
Oh, no, it's 11,000. 11
million, yeah.
Or 11 million.
Yeah.
Okay, because that was my question, is how can we already be over 12 when the project's not done? Is this strictly for work that's been completed so far?
That's my understanding.
Which I would assume.
This is just a total estimate of the project. They want to be able to take all the deduction, but they can only take what it was, so that's with them. So we have not spent this much even yet.
We have not spent 11,800,000. Okay. And then could we get an update? How are we looking numbers wise? I think in the finance committee it was mentioned somewhere around 800,000 left.
Oh, an update on the project? Sure.
Yeah. I'd just like to see line items, including stuff that's gone on monthly bills, anything library related.
Sure, we'll get you that for you.
And there was a question too about the township roof being $800,000 or something, or what? We didn't re-roof the whole township building, did we? Was it just the tie-in?
We did re-roof the whole building, but it wasn't that much.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's why I'm just looking at numbers, just making sure we're on track.
Sure.
So
Obviously, it'd be a nice thing for Lakewood.
because in the finance meeting, it was listed as 12 million. It's just a typo.
They included the total project estimate and they included the roofing.
Oh, okay.
When they
So this
sent
is
out
not
the-
including.
Right.
Now, the 11,800,000, does that include landscaping, that kind of stuff?
That's the whole project scope.
The whole project, parking lot and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. With that clarification, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Go back now to our item number 14, and this is the unfinished business with Grand Rapids Gravel, which James spoke to here tonight, and their appeal. You all received a draft resolution, and to open discussion here then among the board, is there someone who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, before a motion is made, as last time, I'd like to ask permission to be recused, seeing that I'm a member of the Mineral Mining Review Board and I've already voted on this, and I've also spent considerable time in discussions regarding this. So I would ask that that be allowed.
Certainly. It doesn't mean that he can't voice thoughts about it, correct?
Can't, it doesn't mean he can't, but it's probably best that.
I prefer.
Okay. Because I would welcome comments from you.
Right, I appreciate that, but I would prefer not unless there are matters of fact, but I think it's pretty straightforward from what we've heard and from what everyone has read.
Okay. Well, the motion that's been placed before you in the draft,
I don't think.
I'm sorry, it hasn't been. You had to make before we voted on it.
Right.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion. Is it to accept the resolution? Is that the right language? To accept the resolution, the draft that's before us dated February 4, 2020? I'll support that.
All right. You all have received that. And our directive this past meeting to the Township Council was that pursuant to the request of this board that she prepare the draft resolution that you have in front of you now. It is therefore in front of you. We've heard again further tonight from those who are making the appeal. I think, like most of you, you've heard from others within the community in the interim, both businesses and individuals. And I'd like to open the floor at this time for any discussion among the board, either about the resolution as drafted and whether you find it consistent with what you gave directive to this past meeting, or whether you wish to add anything further to your prior discussion from the last meeting.
I'm comfortable with this draft. I think it reflects what we were talking about last week, and I feel like we discussed it at length last week, or our last meeting. It wasn't last week, but last month. And I'm very comfortable with this language and ready to move forward.
I would agree with that. I agree with Becky, and I think we've discussed this thoroughly. I did find it just a minor typographical error. It was either number 3 or number 7 where they used the word "zav" there. The word "zav," and it wasn't appropriate. It was just very minor. And I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me. I just...
Look at you, English teacher.
Perhaps we're hunting through the language. Anyone to my left here?
I am sorry.
That's all right. No. Anyone?
I agree too with Becky. I'm very happy with the resolution that Crystal Morgan has written up for us. And I think it covers everything, like Becky said, that we discussed at our last meeting.
Jason or Michael? Anyone?
I think it's good to note that we had the letter go out to say that, hey, we're imposing all the same bonding requirements, everything else of all similar type organizations. This isn't just picking out one organization, one person. This isn't a personal thing, at a company thing. This is a general requirement now, and that notification has been sent.
Michael, anything?
I disagree with it, and I would try to make a motion to, it wouldn't be a reconsider motion, but go back to the drawing board on this, but I can see I wouldn't have the support.
I'm sorry, didn't hear you.
I wouldn't have the support. So,
Okay.
but I still feel that, the timeline that they laid out is reasonable. I still think this is based on fear. And I kind of feel like they've been targeted, so.
I'll say the last one here, I guess who hasn't addressed it tonight, and that is, I can appreciate the position which Barrington's Gravel is. I think I would probably try to do something very similar, in terms of making a proposal or trying to find a solution that might otherwise, in your view, be a win-win or bring about some certainty for the township in terms of the end of things out there. So I'm not dismissive of your efforts or your point of view. And I do understand, and I had to clarify, frankly, and I don't know about the rest of you, with certain people that have contacted me at least since our last meeting to say, let's make sure at least we're delineating things correctly. That is, they're not being denied the ability to continue to excavate there, which they haven't done a great deal of, admittedly, in recent years, but of which they pointed out there are some reserves, albeit not easy to get at, not as desirable, I'd say, than what's been taken out of there previously. I understand the point of view that they could endeavor to do that, and that they feel they have an argument, if they should choose to do so, to try to elongate the time they have remaining. And that's, I think, we shall see, right? But I at least see this as not so much a flat denial, as I think clearly Grandpa's Gravel understands, but I think some of those maybe from afar or just sort of in the know about it might be confused about and think, well, wait a second, why can't they remain? Well, it's not as simple as that. I think what we're more or less saying is that we're in agreement with the Mineral Mining Board, that in our administrator, we're agreeing that you can do what you once were supposed to have been doing, which is excavating and processing on site, but not bringing in from off site. And the consensus of the board has been that they want to support the Mineral Mining Board in that respect, and I throw my agreement behind them. But I understand it's not a simple matter. I think that's why they were wrestling with it in Mineral Mining and discussing it at length. That's why they're here. That's why they're appealing, and we've heard from council and the like. So it's not a clear cut thing, but I ultimately agree that with the sentiment behind the decision made by the Mineral Mining Board, and support them as well. So, having said that, then I think we can hear from among ourselves maybe where we stand. But it is a roll call vote. I'll look to our clerk in that respect.
Okay, Mr. Schwab.
I'm sorry, are we,
It's a roll call vote.
To accept the resolution.
Yes.
My motion.
Mrs. Steele.
Yes.
Clerk abstains. Mr. Wieringa.
Yes.
Mrs. Skolma.
Yes.
Mr. Manier.
Yes.
Mr. Bosch.
No.
Carried.
All right, thank you. Item 15 is the second public comment period. You may step forward to address the board, whether you spoke earlier, whether you haven't spoken yet tonight. As I said before, and as James approaches here, to the rest of you, you're welcome to speak to us on any issue that's on your mind as it pertains to the township. So we'll begin with James.
James Lechman, Grand Rapids Gravel. I guess I'm just back to the resolution you just adopted. Can I just get some clarification on numbers 30 and 31 where it talks about the bond amount? I was at the last meeting, obviously, and there was quite a bit of discussion that seemed like the board kind of agreed the $200,000 amount was excessive. Have you discussed lowering that bond amount? Our whole acreage, included in everything that we have, is roughly 224 acres. You guys have seen the map, or you as boards have seen the map. There's over 100 of those acres are open water. Obviously, that's reclaimed to what it's going to be. And you had some discussion like you said you would about that?
That'll be based on working with you and staff of the acreage that has to be reclaimed.
It was just in 30 and 31 you just adopted it.
Right, I know, but based on the number of acres, there'll be you mentioned at our last meeting, like 80 acres, for example, so it'll be in that bound, so. That's what they've adopted for us now at this point. You can see up there.
And he I guess in the answer to his question, he would take up that discussion further beyond this directly with who specifically at the township.
Right. With the minimum mining officials.
Okay, all right. Okay, I want to make sure he knows where he's going. Okay.
You would have to wait till the next mineral mining board meeting?
I don't suspect he could have conversations sooner than that. Sorry, Minette?
We can work with them on that.
Because there's also some talk about some of it's already been reclaimed, so it's going to be even lower than 80. So, but that's what I'm wondering is when does he get there? Does they have to wait months?
No, when they propose, we will look at the number and they can propose the area that has to be reclaimed, and we'll go with the number from that number of the acreage that still has to be reclaimed.
So the proposal would be initiated.
Public comment period.
I understand, but I want to be clear for my sake. So the initiation of the proposal of how many acres they think needs to be reclaimed yet would
come to
staff.
staff.
Be brought, to staff, and they can begin to discuss that with them. Yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Maya Hahn. I live at 2091 Corey Drive in Georgetown Shores. I did bring you guys lots of reading material, as always. One for all of you. So I am here to share more information regarding non-ionizing radio frequency radiation. So these are the wireless microwave frequencies coming from our cell towers and our cell phones and so forth. So the science is now quite clear that this type of radiation is hazardous to bees and human health. There have been over 10,000 scientific studies now published in the peer-reviewed journals, and I have brought a few cited there. One of the things that you need to consider when you are doing your due diligence on the EMF science is that you look at who has funded the study. Across the board, the independent studies, those that were not sponsored by telecom, demonstrate adverse biological effects. So please take the time to read the science. I want to tell you about two of the most important studies to date. They both came out in 2018. So in 2018, the National Toxicology Program, which is our nation's toxicology program, highly acclaimed, came out after a $30 million budget over a 14-year long-term lifespan to determine if our cell phones and our wireless radiation were causing biological harm. So what they found, clear evidence of rare heart tumors, rare brain tumors, and adrenal tumors, along with a host of biological and neurological effects. So in that same year, another institute came out, one of the most highly acclaimed institutes in the world called the Ramazzini Institute. They're in Italy. That same year, they came out with their $25 million study across a 20-year span. They looked at the entire lifespan from conception to death of rats. They had this giant rat hotel and a cell tower right in the middle, and they only gave them 7 hours of radiation lower than the levels that the FCC regulates, says is safe. And again, they came out with the exact same rare heart tumors, rare brain tumors, and adrenal tumors as the National Toxicology Program. So these two studies show you that they are showing that they are carcinogenic. It's across the board, long-term studies, massive studies, and they show the exact results. And those are part of those in there. So now 260,000 scientists from around the world have now petitioned to stop the rollout of 5G. And they are petitioning to tell the World Health Organization to reclassify non-ionized radiation to be from a Class B to a Class A. And so the World Health Organization right now is reviewing the science, and they're going to have their ruling in November. So be prepared that we might be dealing with a whole new category. So if we do end up having a Class A carcinogen with non-ionizing, it's going to change a lot of things, because if you even think of our schools, oh my gosh, that's so fast.
You can wrap it with a phrase here.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so also I just really I'm going to talk again at the utilities. I don't know who's on the utilities, but also this has the 20% decrease in your real estate if you live next to a cell tower. And then this also talks about you need to make sure that you have ADA accommodations and a process for applying for that accommodation, because people with pacemakers need to know that there's a cell tower near them, because they could disrupt, or other kind of mechanical implanted devices. So,
Eli.
thank you.
That's a lot to say in 3 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I would love a meeting. I would love to present to you. So.
Sure, and I'll have a couple of comments during discussion of general information, but we appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wishes to address? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Amy Peck, 2567 Oak Hollow Drive, Denison. There has been resident concern about the installation of 5G technologies in the public right-of-way and questions regarding the authority regulating the communication industry. To support next-generation 5G wireless broadband systems, the telecom industry is seeking to deploy tens of thousands of distributed antenna systems in small cell wireless facilities. Municipalities are increasingly receiving applications for these wireless facilities and are faced with the challenge of regulating large-scale antenna deployment in the public right-of-way under federal and state law. The FCC has restricted municipal regulation of this 5G infrastructure, preempt local control of the public right-of-way. The moratoria order bans any moratoria related to 5G infrastructure deployment of the small cell order, provides application processing standards and aesthetics requirement, and set cap fees on permit fees and right-of-way access and attachments to the jurisdiction-owned structures. Congress has conferred jurisdiction to the FCC to regulate the telecommunications. Despite any state law regulating the deployment of this infrastructure, local municipalities wishing to prohibit the deployment of 5G are preempted by the FCC in its recent orders. As a result, the city is preempted by federal law and cannot prohibit these facilities, but we urge our state and federal legislators to initiate reliable studies of health effects of this small cell, wireless, and 5G technology. So I'm here tonight to ask the board to approve a resolution asking the state lawmakers, the FCC, and Congress to halt the deployment of the 5G until the health effects are fully understood. In addition to that, I'm asking for a repeal of Acts 365 and 367, as well as I'm asking for a requirement for all the fiber optic installations using the right-of-ways to be shared, a shared service terminal that could be tapped to provide data services to individual consumers. This technology is already being rolled out in cities all over the country, and it's never been tested for safety. The World Health Organization and the International Agency for Research on Cancer had classified radio frequencies as possible carcinogenic to humans. So we are asking to limit this 5G technology until the health effects are fully understood by an uninterested third party. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amy. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, two of you.
Jeff Solart, 6435 Fairway Drive, Jenison, Michigan. Regarding the 5G cell phone use, I believe that I think that the number of deaths per year is not that significant. The thing I think is significant is air pollution. And if you live next to a neighbor who wood burns in a residential subdivision, I think that the health effects are grave. And I suffer from asthma, and I've got a neighbor who wood burns. And yeah, so I guess I'd like to encourage the township to take action. I've talked to this neighbor, and I said, hey, I'll pay your natural gas bill. And, he was not interested. And at that point, you can't say he's heating his home. You can say he's having a recreational fire at that point. And, I've contacted the township. I've contacted a lot of places, and nobody will seem to address this. So the Michigan DEQ, when you call them, there's clear violation of opacity laws, and that he's violating, and you call the Michigan DEQ, they just are not, quite simply put, they will not enforce any residential air quality things. The township is hesitant. Actually, there's no ordinance for even smoke nuisance. that you guys have. So if I asked Rich, I don't know his last name. Makaraki. If I asked him to enforce something, he would have nothing to enforce anyways. The only thing he could enforce is trespass. And believe it or not, you can trespass without stepping foot on people's property. And, I've got a couple neighbors that would burn. Some are nuisance, some are not a problem, and one, I believe, rises to the level of a trespass. So, it would be a good idea for the township to, despite me, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to move to Florida. I'm going to be happy, I'm fine. But the township should, consider nobody in a residential subdivision with natural gas and 10-foot setbacks needs to be smoking their neighbors out, whether people experience health effects or not, immediate health effects. Everybody, could get cancer or whatnot. But, so yeah, there's a lot of things, you guys can do when people sell their homes, make sure they have EPA certified stoves. There's a whole bunch of things. I've got a lot of ideas. It's going to be very easy. And just to make some common sense things, you don't have to go crazy and piss a bunch of people off, but there's some common sense things you guys can do to just make sure people aren't being crazy. So, thank you.
Good job.
Barry Coley, 939 Rushmore Street. On the 5G, I don't have an issue either way. I would just ask the board to make sure you do your due diligence in checking out the facts on that, because I recall a board meeting a few months ago where some people came in discussing 5G and making some statements about firefighters in California and so forth. And when I went home afterwards and checked that out, I couldn't find any factual facts supporting their statements about the adverse effects on the firefighters. So I would just ask you to make sure you check it out with due diligence and make sure the facts you're getting are the correct facts. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the second public comment period. Discussion and general information among the board.
Actually, I've got a couple items.
Yes.
One, to remove an item from a consent agenda doesn't require a vote.
Say it one more time.
To remove an item from a consent agenda.
Did I call for a vote on that? I'm sorry, my apologies.
That's all right. I figured it was just oversight. And two, the library bombed out Baghdad Road to the library has been closed. Unfortunately, it took numerous complaints to get it done. Should have been common sense, should have taken care of it, but it's closed now.
I think it was complaints and a lighter than expected winter that just never gave us that hard tundra. But yeah. Yep. Anyone else?
And then my last one was I saw that the Utilities Committee had granted a sidewalk waiver, which I was excited to see that. It's one of those sidewalks to nowhere, so I like seeing that where it just didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So common sense would say you can't. Why are you forcing a business owner to do that? So I would suggest maybe we go back and look at, there was one business next to off of 44th by the apartments there, between the golf course and the apartment. Maybe reconsider some of those. That didn't make sense, but were denied a waiver. And I know that particular business owner was not happy and basically said, Georgetown still hates business and I refuse to develop or do anything here until that changes. And I've got that from a number of businesses that are like, why are you forcing me to put in the sidewalk? It connects to nothing. It probably never will for 20 years. So, I'm a consistency person. I was like, wait a minute. But they got a waiver. I would have pulled it from the consent agenda, but I didn't want to jinx them. Because if I said, hey, I think this is good, you're doing it, then it would have, well, hey, we should have denied that.
Well, all right. For the record, though, two things you really liked tonight. So, yeah, I did, duly noted. Anyone else?
In communications, we had a letter from Mr. Cole about pickleball courts, and I know that you've had some communication on that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, for our parks and things, we look for things that would be high use items, and it's always good to see people using our facilities. And I know that sport in particular is very up and coming. With my job, we're working on courts across the state, school districts. We're putting these things in like crazy, big growing things. So I think it's definitely something that we can look at to serve our community. I think it's a fast-growing item.
Yeah, I appreciate that echoing. I think services committees even said they intend to, part of the park plan, talk about it.
Probably in the fall, we'll be talking about the park plan, and that would be a good time for them to come to the meeting and.
It certainly represents a large group.
Yeah, a lot of them. There are a lot of people locally that play, and I mean, if you ever go to that group and the people.
The negative thing I said to them is, I hope it's not like racquetball, where, remember that? 70s. Everybody was building racquetball.
So everybody played racquetball.
So we're looking for tying that into the new master plan when it comes up, and then trying to go also possibly for some grants. So it's on the radar. We want to do it. It's we're thinking in one location might be the best way to go.
And I did contact them and give them that information too. So
great. Good. All right. Anyone else? No, seeing that, I have just one thing. I guess I'd say to Maya and Amy, I've appreciated the information you provide us, and I've done some independent studies. I expect the board has as well. We're families, we're fellow residents, we have kids, we're married, none of us wants to put our own families in harm's way. So no one can deny your passion, your sincerity. And I guess among the board, I would say, at least for myself, the only information, by the way, I've raised it with the fellow supervisors in the Ottawa County Township Supervisors in looking at potentially bringing in a speaker to an MCA program related to it. Because it's important and it's interesting. I think the science is not entirely settled, albeit I'm sure that those on both sides feel that very strongly about how settled it may be, or even, I guess my and Amy's perspective might be that because it's not settled, that may be reason alone to wait in its rollout or its implementation. But what would really be helpful to me as a board member, if you should come across it in any of you, or if the public would present information through letters and things that they're allowed to do, so as board members, would be just focusing more on, what is the actual township authority to make change or speak to this issue. I know, and I think probably appropriately so, it was recognized tonight that we probably don't have much authority, but perhaps persuasive, hey, state, we wish you would not do this or do that. And that's something that obviously we have that ability to do. Whether or not they would take that into account, or whether there's even a consensus one way or another on this board, I'm not sure. But it's an area I'm curious about, and I'm interested as time goes on in seeing, where the science goes, and frankly, what authority we may have, no matter how we feel at this level, to affect that change. So, anyway, I have nothing else. All right, seeing no one else then, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Supported, all in favor? Aye. All right, and we are adjourned.